Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing to my channel. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you for your support as I travel this road, putting myself out there, just putting myself out there. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. So, this is the second part to my first part of I believe I entitled the first part Remaining Positive Through Struggle. So if you haven't seen that video, I do encourage you to go check that video out before entertaining this video. This is just the main cards that I pulled for that particular reading, the ones that you see that are seen here. So I'm just trying to bounce off of that reading now, the completion of the reading. But as I engaged the reflections of this reading afterwards, of sharing a part of my story, a part of what I've been through, as I reflected upon which the direction of the read took, I became aware that my spirit guide was encouraging me to talk about myself, which was something that was never encouraged growing up. I am reminded that when I did talk about myself, the people closest always made an effort to illuminate that I was talking about myself. Almost like I was exhaustive to them. Like, here she goes again. And although in recollection, I did not always talk about myself, the moment that I did try to express myself, or those moments that I did try to express myself, they were always shut down. And this was a tone of undermining, gaslighting, it was manipulation, and there was stonewalling and even triangulation tactics between myself and my siblings. Always occurring in effort to keep another's comfort level at the height of it all, causing separation in my relationships while my comfort level exceeded and plummeted below normal. So when you are raised in this and you don't know any different, it is just the way that it is. And you end up maneuvering in life with low self-confidence, which leads you into making perhaps terrible choices and decisions because you don't think you are worthy. You also lose many opportunities to connect with positivity because you were never shown how. You never experienced it in a genuine formation. And when you do, you may overlook its genuine experience as a trap because it's not your normal, or you were manipulated to believe that that was not normal. So this leads to immense suffering, eternal strife, discord, and disregard of your essential needs being met, your essential emotional needs, mental needs, physical needs being met, which becomes an exhaustive state. As there is no one to hold space for you, it's only you. Understand that you disregard yourself in all areas because those that should have loved you showed you this is your place. This is your space. It's like a dry well of plummeted existence. No nourishment, no understanding, or even a way to compare outside of your understanding of life. Everything I learned outside of this was my responsibility. If I wanted change, I had to find it. And this is where that deep trust in spirit is all that you have. And I believe that was reflected in the cards the other day. And this is where you find God, or rather, God holds you. And you may not be aware of it at the time, but when you come to the space where you've gone beyond this cycle, you've completed it, you now can see everything very clearly for what it has been. And it becomes exceedingly clear that God has always been with you. And this was an interesting reflection because although I knew how I suffered, at least I thought I knew how I suffered, the depths of which that I did, the way that my spirit guide brought this into the reading, being reintegrated for me to decipher in a new way, was extremely potent medicine for me to understand. And I hope it was for you too. I do appreciate this type of reflection, which I think is why I've always loved grabbing a deck of cards and just kind of playing with them and just seeing what comes out when I'm experiencing difficulties or I'm wanting understanding. Even just speaking with my deceased loved ones, I've always found this, not just tarot, also the oracle cards, or just the multitude of books that are at our fingertips to dive into this directional input that we need. Anyways, I always appreciate this type of reflection. And I think this is why I enjoy learning from others. It's like choosing spaces to engage when I sought out a need for knowledge or deepening my understandings in my choosing. Embracing the opportunity to learn, even if I already know or understand what is being taught, I always embrace it as a student. I don't express or try to pull away from the experience being taught. I do, however, interact to understand, to deepen my understanding. But I'm always respectful in others' expressions of their understandings. I thoroughly enjoy learning from everybody. I can learn from everybody, anything, any experience. I enjoy it. It's very fulfilling for me when I interact with people. And it's important to me to show respect to others, especially in these connections or in teachable environments, when trying to understand something in another depth. Because that's what you get. You get enrichment learning from others. You can't, at least my experience, I don't believe going around life thinking that I know everything is of benefit to me, because I know I don't know everything. And it's just always interesting to meet somebody who has similar experiences but different understandings, right? And I guess this goes along with the beginning of the last read, where I was speaking about staying and observing your own journey and not peeking at others, trying to steal or take from them ideas, or because it's never going to succeed. It's always going to be a struggle when you focus on others' experiences, others' lanes, rather than your own. And that's why it's important for me to show respect to others when I am looking towards their environments to learn. When I am leaning outside of myself to deepen an understanding in my depth. But I think the saddest realization for me is that I have not been met with that same courtesy. It's just very telling expression of other interactions that I have been met with throughout my entire life. It's not like this has been on a constant. This is not just a one-off. And I believe this is a difficulty in our world currently. It's like another tone, another level and another layer in what direction. Anywho, that was my reflection beyond this reading. So I shared the base of this reading was I shared that I was presently in the Nine of Cups, and the integrating or influencing energy was the Ten of Pentacles, influencing this positioning. And the goal, like, this is a result of intense trust, sincere attitude, this Nine of Cups. And also an opportunity to know that there's more to come. I should be enjoying this moment because there's going to be challenges to come, like new challenges, right? And the Ten of Pentacles, I believe the energy influencing was like a domestic peace or a foundation. And then there was the Goal Destiny, which was like blessing, sharing knowledge, embracing family traditions. Then the Queen of Pentacles in reverse was in the distant past positioning, as well as the Fool card recent. And then this all brought to the future influence energy was the Ten of Cups. And this was essentially me illuminating a lot of experience that I've had up to this point that brought me to this positioning. So I have the same cards out. I didn't shuffle them from this particular reading, but I'm being guided now to shuffle them a couple times. So I'm just going to do so. And if you were able to watch my last reading, I do hope that it met you well. And I appreciate you being here today, sharing space with me again. Hopefully this message brings something to your heart space, to your life in some way, shape, or form, in a positive notion or manner. So I'm just going to go ahead here and pull the next few cards to see where we're going here. Flipped over that way. Okay. Now, this is leading into the second part now. So all of this coming into the position of the questioner. And this is I truly believe this is like the space of gratitude, because I do feel very grateful for everything I've been through. Although there's been a lot of hardship, I never look at it like, I mean, there has been times, sure, where learning how to engage in hardship, or, you know, what was happening, like perhaps over and over. I think that's actually indicative to this reading. And please don't just take this reading. I know it's a lot of my information. I hope what's coming forward from this reading is illuminating that you're not alone, that maybe you too are perhaps suffering with some form of experience that is difficult, or has caused stagnation in your life, or made you feel crippled, just some form of debilitation in regards to your standpoint in your journey or throughout your life, or barriers or walls that you keep coming up against. And I think what I wanted to iterate there, sorry, I had a moment there where I lost my train of thought. I had some incense burning earlier, and when I was doing my prayers to open up space and connect for the reading and the day, what I noticed was the smoke was very light and it was very airy, and there were so many pathways and there was so much choices in the smoke, and it was spiraling and it was softly whirling around and around, and but the cycle of the whirling of the smoke was not fully enclosing. It was just drifting which way it wanted to go. And I thought what was so beautiful about that was it was like there's many cycles that come into play in our lives, and the pathways that you choose will open up the different cycles. And so this is just for me all of this that has been, I mean, I've stayed stuck in those energies throughout my life so many times, so many layers and levels of it. And until you completely get that it's teaching you something, or like, why is it coming up over and over and over again? Like, like you're getting hit in the face with a wet fish. It's just, there's no point in sitting there and stewing in it. It is what it is. The crap I dealt with my family, it was what it was. It's resting in the place that it lay, and that cycle is now closed. And I choose how to move forward with it. And I choose how to perceive the circumstance. All of the experiences that I had up to this point to bring me into this point, the 10 of Cups, being in the 9 of Cups and the 10 of Pentacles, and the goal and the destiny getting to the Hierophant, understanding the reversed Queen of Wands positioning. And I think in this particular reflection, it was all about appearances and experiences outwardly rather than internal understanding of why. And this was a person that was placed in my life to teach me this, and I learned it. I learned what I wanted to be and what I didn't want to be, most importantly. And then coming into this new profound experience of understanding was very cathartic for me. Just being able to view it all as something that has occurred rather than something that I am in was pivotal. And just being so grateful and celebrating that really is truly where this energy is right now. It's success, it's well-being. It's me choosing me over anybody else's. Like, why, when you go out and you meet people and your whole viewpoint is how are they going to better me, that's a problem. There's a problem in that connection there. It's not how are they going to better me, how are they going to create a space of betterment for me. It's how enriching is this experience going to be for me, for that person? Will I enrich that person's life in any way, shape, or form? I think, too, more importantly, understanding how they are enriching your space. If you're pondering why specific dynamics are occurring with the people in your life and nothing seems to be flowing effortlessly for you, you're always being pulled into the sludge and you're not understanding the depth of your face in the mud again. This is the reflection that you need to start to understand. It's letting it go. Stop holding on tightly to those that cause you such pain and sorrow. And this is what happens when you start to illuminate that you deserve better, that you are worthy of better, that you are worthy of all the successes that those that you look up to have. And it doesn't mean you need to have their successes, but you are worthy of success. And it's focusing on your lane. And that starts with what makes you happy? How can we move forward with more balance, joy, warm, harmony? How can we be existent in our circumstances in a more positive and impactful way? It's like there's no, you can wake up every morning and choose to be heavy, choose to remain in stagnation, or you could just try to do the opposite. There's been many times in my life where I've been met with just rock bottom pain, and I just chose to wake up one day and say, enough. It's a choice. It's a choice. Three of Cups. And for me, this is like the energy that's been in the environment, right? So if I look back on the energies of the environments past, it's like what's that expression? What's that expression? The cup is full. When your cup is full, when you've received, I don't know the full expression, but maybe some of you will know the expression I'm trying to relay, but I'm just going to try to describe it. When your cup is full, when you've been nurtured, when you've been loved right, when you've been held in your pain, in your sorrow, when you've been comforted and redirected for change, or for understanding the choice of your changes, understanding how you implement your energy into an environment, and understand how you accept others' energies in an environment. When you are showed this and you have a wholeness about you because of the understanding of this dynamic of a filled cup, when your cup is full, you will be met with the fullness that you have, right? Because you can meet others with the same type of capacity. But when you're not filled up with nourishment, when you have emotional trauma or triggers, when you have a difficulty in being vulnerable because you've been taught to be quiet and small, and that means expressing yourself, right? For me today, the last reading and this reading was very vulnerable. Well, this reading not as bad, but the last reading was very like on the spot. My ancestors pushing me into this reading, like essentially saying, "Fucking talk about yourself." And I did. And I mean, if you watch the video, you could see it was uncomfortable for me. And you could see my little nervous quirks where it gets uncomfortable. If you're to really decipher something and get to know somebody's energy, you would see that there is a lot of this underlining pigmentation of a cup that was once half full. But I think you might also bear witness to, I filled my own cup, and I got the nourishment that I needed to be able to stand in that other reading and express what I expressed and share the way that I got out of those expressions. I think is the most important part of that message, because it's a choice, right? And so the Three of Cups representing like celebration, right? It's sisterhood, it's sociality. But in the past, when I wasn't quite full, I was meeting people who were equal in regards to not having wholeness, having difficulties in their circumstances, and kind of grasping like a claw at somebody who could give them something or entertain a feeling or a need, a requirement for them to be able to feel satisfied in their life. And when you are somebody that has just not been taught these experiences, and you're going out trying to meet a better life, right? It's exhausting to constantly be met with the same experience. And it's almost like when you meet those positive people in your life, again, like I mentioned in my reflections at the opening of this reading, it's like when you are met with those positive types people that you strive to be like, that you aspire to. You might, depending on how your perception is, where you've learned, if you're still in that space where you're reflecting outwards, you might put a label on them. Or maybe if you're starting to do your shadow work and you're starting to get it but you're still not there, you might feel not worthy of them. And so this is the Three of Cups energy, and because the energy has changed and shifted for me, I know my future relationships that I choose to engage are going to be more rich. And I don't mean materialistically, I mean in experience. I want people who could equally give to the environment where it feels safe and it feels expressive and natural, authentic. It's important to me to express in vulnerability the purest form of yourself. And I will still hold space for those who maybe aren't there yet. That's okay. Nobody is meant to be at the same spaces, right? At the same time. We all grow and evolve with each other. It's like this idea that I've always had in my life. It's just like we are all walking each other home. We are all walking each other home. And some are not doing the work and they're trampling over people trying to get there first. But they're not going to succeed at getting there first because they're still holding on to the immense baggage of the past. That heaviness as you try to move forward in letting everything go. If you haven't looked at the heaviness of your life, if you haven't reflected upon the baggage that you entertain, it's only going to weigh you down and hold you back. And the lighter the energy around you, the heavier you're going to get, because you're not going to be able to tangibly connect to the later version of who you could be, because you forgot them way behind when you trampled over everybody who was in front of you. And that's the ideation, is that the right word? I don't know. That we get in this society, everywhere we look, in this hypnotic type state, idealism that we should be looking a certain way. We should be not aging gracefully. We should be injecting ourselves with all sorts of things to try to maintain this younger version of ourselves. And hey, if that's your thing, I'm not judging you. But this is the truth, and the reality is we're not open to growing in the direction of natural, authentic self. It's a band-aid, this idea to strive to hold on to this aspect of our life that we deem as the most impactful. But we're in this raw state of learning in those younger moments and stages. And that's where we're in our vulnerability. And we need to be letting loose of the constructs, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's like I go in a bubble of information and I get lost. So I hope that made sense to you. But here is the environment now, and it's just change. It looks fresh. It looks refurbished to me, this card. It looks bright and promising. And I do see just one fish here. Although it's the Three of Cups, I see one fish jumping out of the water and just going in their own direction, which is kind of what I've done. I said to all the past connections that I had, to many of them, I just closed them off because they were just not benefiting me in any way, shape, or form. They were not being honest or in their integrity towards me. there was a lot of experiences that occurred that created this stifle for myself and my family. And because I know of this, I have a deeper understanding of this now, I don't see the point of continuing that facade any further. And I don't mean any ill will on anybody. I wish everybody well, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything is okay between us when it's the exact opposite. My opposition is to stay with those that pull me down. And I'm not willing to go there anymore because I know that I'm worthy and I know that I have purpose in this life, and that this idea that I had or concept that was kind of placed upon me in my past, it just no longer exists. I'm not that person anymore. I am not that person anymore. And so I begin my new journey forward in the way that I know I can. And the strength card reversed. And this is like a deep dive into just understanding my ideas of what I thought was strong in the past. It's like playing in this facade, pretending that I'm something I'm not almost. Just trying to find this footing where I belong. It was a weakness. Although I perceived it as strength, it was a weakness in my life. And it was me being a coward at facing the reality of what I was doing. And that means not facing myself first. It's just pretending that I don't exist and moving into this direction, hoping to find myself when I'm just behind me. I'm within me. I'm just in the opposite way that I've always been going. It's not a direction. It's just holding a space in your vessel. And this just clearly states to me that's what it has been. And this card, when it flipped out, it kind of flipped out in a way that it was kind of sideways, and I ended up taking it in reverse. But I feel like it's because the alignment wasn't right. But when the alignment becomes right, this vulnerability opens up and you gain the insight into the Ten of Wands of what your burdens have been. What you've implemented, what you have, what the reverse of this, what this brought for me in my life was many, many burdens in relationships, many burdens in, trying to be a good parent, in trying to be a good business owner, and trying to be a good human being for myself and for my children. It burdened me so much, everything that I was putting myself into, that I was finding my cup was depleted and not full at all. And so just understanding that and reversing the understanding of that brought so much more engagement, so much more fulfillment, so much more reality that the sun was the only thing that could shine. This was very pivotal. And by releasing that struggle with being strong in, what's the word I'm looking for? We're releasing that burden and being strong in another's perception of what strength is, to keep them safe and secure while you don't feel safe and secure, I think is what that implies. And this brings you into a Six of Cups energy. And that's just reflecting on your childhood memories and trying to see where the kindness was, because even though there were difficulties there were moments where you met kindness. And those are the little sparks of light that I believe are God. They're angels, they're fairies, they're the beings of light that come to help show you the way. And it's a very subtle interaction. And how can I share that? I'm being reminded of this experience that I had where, and for those of you who've been under spiritual warfare in your life, you will understand that there is this repeated pattern or cycle that occurs where you kind of trigger this understanding that you're under attack or there's something going on again. So I was going through a moment of that last October, I believe, November. And I was out. It's funny because I haven't noticed it prior to this day in a while, although I was under constant attack and warfare at that time. But I was just so used to it that I wasn't necessarily, and life was just so busy and burdened by the Ten of Wands that I wasn't really seeing it or experiencing it as anything, but it was me, right? Because when you're somebody who is sitting in that space where you think everything is your fault or everything that you're experiencing is because you've done something wrong, which was where I was. Well, I wasn't at the time, but I was unfolding out of that. But I understood that reflection. And I remember thinking that maybe, because I did have a miscarriage prior to that, and the feeling that I got was weakness and dizziness. And sometimes when I have been pregnant in the past, there is this moment where I get like that when I'm hungry. So I thought maybe we were thinking maybe I was in that moment of pregnancy again because of it doesn't matter. Anywho, there was a thought of that. So we thought, well, maybe we should just go get something to eat and then we're going to go back home. And I remember we just stopped at this place, this little restaurant, because I was very weak and I was very depleted of energy at this time. And there was a man. I remember him. I remember this bright man walking in, and I looked at him and I thought to myself, he's an angel. Just seeing his eyes look at my eyes, I just knew whatever was going to happen that day was going to change my life. And this man was seated with another man. And at perception, one might observe perhaps they were in lack. But my observation was not that. Although it was very clear many in the restaurant perhaps perceived this. At least this was the illusion that I believed. And this is the story of the Strength card in reverse, right? That's holding on to this concept of what you've been told to believe about what you see everywhere in society, what you experience in life. And I was just challenged in that moment with this perception. And I remember looking at this man and he was smiling at my son, and my son, just this energy about the two of them in the room together just got really bright and very powerful. And I was just very aware that life was going to change. And then I came home and I prayed and I spoke about what I was going through. I knew I knew who was attacking me. I knew exactly who was attacking me. And I called them out in the spirit. And I let God know what was going on. And life just, all the supernatural stuff just started happening for me. If you've had a supernatural experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. But I'm talking a life-changing experience occurred. The energy of my home shifted. Everything changed from that moment on. That was the day I chose myself. And that was the day that I was honored in choosing myself. I was helped. I was supported. Because God has always been there through all of my struggles. But he just waited for me to say enough. There was key understandings, key phrases, key knowings that I had to entertain before the change of shift would occur for me. And this is the Six of Cups, right? It's recollecting the childhood memories and understanding the kindness. How long has this pattern been going on in my life? When is it, what, how long, like, what is it, the observation of the window I look through in these memories? What is it? Is it real? And then it's just, I noticed the kind presences in my world that had nothing to do with me, but everything to do with me. It's just seeing the interconnectedness of each and every one of us, and how your energy connecting with my energy, when we meet, when we connect in spaces, really amplifies or pulls away from the environment. And we get those feelings when we're walking out, like to be cautious or to be aware, or that person, the energy is really good, I feel comfortable, or that person, the energy, I'm seeing it's comfortable because everybody looks comfortable around me, but I don't feel it's comfortable in me. And what does that perception tell you? This is the deep dive into all these spaces that are going to help you reflect what it is that you're needing in this time and moment. And I'm telling you, it's in looking around your environment and noticing what you're actually perceiving, and then asking yourself, is this accurate? What am I perceiving? Is this accurate? And then we have the One of Wands. This is the stuff that dreams are made out of. This is where you get that creative spark deep within you, that breath of fresh air, that release of burden. The Ten of Wands, burden, like the heaviness of all that you've worn as yourself throughout your entire life, your entire existence, and one story to the next, to the next, to the next, and each story getting more and more horrendous in the heaviness of it. And it's just this sigh that you could just let it all go. It doesn't matter anymore. You can see the circle of this trunk here and all the lines of its existence, all the patterns and all the reflections and all the understandings, all the misconceptions, all the misunderstandings. Everything lies in this tree stump and surrounded by the powerful medicine of the meadow. This represents your life. This represents all the unique interactions that you can have with the right energies. It also represents all the stagnation and the discord that you once had. I don't know if you could see this, but this tree stump, it's like the shadow around it, and this tightly constructed space here where there's more shadow. That's the deep dive, right, into the shadow to get into the root of what it has been. And you could see the light on the opposite side of it. Looking one way, it's the depth of heavy, and then looking the other way, it's just the world is your oyster kind of energy. And it's a very pivotal moment of power to have that spark, that creative spark, that inner child enthusiasm like explodes within you and just oozes out of every crevice and surface that you engage, because you were willing to dive into your infrastructure, so to speak, to understand the greater depth, the greater awareness of it all. And here we have a King of Cups and a Two of Wands energy. And this to me, this is an active space. This is planning. It's taking risks to be vulnerable. It's taking risks to be and seek your inner teachings as a fluid movement. If you look at the octopus, the King of Cups being a very fluid in psychic balance and very strong in counsel. It's understanding that that's who you've been for yourself, but you've not been able to clearly see it because of the interference that you have learned, and perhaps by design. But it's taking the crucial steps. If you could see the rose bush growing along the wall, overlooking the balcony, and this beautiful forest beyond it. There's a monarch butterfly. All that represents to me ancestors and spirit are with you, walking with you. You've never been alone. Even though life has showed you that nobody wanted to hold space for you, nobody wanted to entertain you. Likely because, as the King of Cups, internally, you may not have seen that, but everybody else saw that. Somebody who's adaptable, who's fluid, are able to solve your problems. And I think even in this space here where you entertain the Two of Wands, which is like planning and taking risks, and then the King of Cups, which is understanding your foundation, understand what you've been through to get to this point, and being fluid in the stance of the creation of your foundation, understanding what it took for you to get there and what it's going to take for you to continue to maintain it. Because it's not like, oh, all of a sudden I'm here and this is just it, and I'm just going to go back into my old ways of being. No, you have to become who you're here to be. There's no going back. You can't pretend that who you've discovered is not an existent experience of who you actually are. It's now being who you actually are and letting everybody else see how to greet you from here on end. Because there's no going back. There's only moving forward. You've already closed that cycle. And it's quite clear that you've mastered it. You now welcome and manage your emotions formidably in interactions with others. And this helps to transform your doubts and leads you into great opportunities and growth. It's putting everybody else aside and starting to take your own advice in circumstances because nobody was willing to hold the space that you required, needed in the past, even an acknowledgement of your space being in existence. Anyhow. And this is the message. This is the part 2. I do hope my story, sharing the story, was helpful in some way, shape, or form for you. Maybe you feel less alone hearing this, knowing there are other people out there who have been through it and made it out better than they went in. It's not easy expressing oneself when it appears as though the world wants to silence you. It's just not. And I guess what I would love to hear from you, if you don't mind, please comment down below. What part of my story was helpful to you? Perhaps you want to learn a little bit more about my perceptions of things, or my experiences in regards to X, Y, and Z. Considering that this, is that the right word? Of course, that is if this video sparked something in you to understand, helped you see something deeper within you, or move you out of something. If there's any other information that I can help with in regards to this video or my first video, leave me a comment, let me know. And I'll do my best to create a video to express further on the typical dynamic that you're asking about, or the topic that you're interested in, or perhaps one that intrigues you. Maybe a deeper understanding into the realm of it. I always find it fascinating to learn other people's understandings and teachings. Maybe you're like me, but like you. Anywho, it was lovely to spend time with you all again today. And until next time, take care.